Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another live session. As always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate the community, and obviously, the community is showing up on both LinkedIn and YouTube, and that's great. And for anybody who hasn't hopped on these before, I really forget to mention this quite often, but on YouTube, these lives, they'll live there for forever. So if you ever miss it or you want to throw your question in or we get behind, just know you can always go back and rewatch the recorded taping. No, that sounds kind of funny. The recorded taping of these YouTube lives. Again, that sounds a little weird, but anyway, thanks for being here. So let's talk a little bit. We'll always kind of set the stage. Obviously, in 2023, the lives have been a little bit slower, but in our downtime, our slow time, we are really going to focus in on talking a little bit more about maybe the Google layoffs, and we'll just get into that a little bit. It always just depends on how many questions come in. As you're joining the session, if you want to say hello, let me know where you're visiting from. It's always fun. We had a really awesome audience last week from BA, Buenos Aires, to Taiwan, to all over the place, and it's just so cool to see where people come and visit from. So I just want to take about a minute to talk about yesterday's video. I always like to do a little bit of a recap and kind of let you know a little bit more about that video. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, definitely check it out. So ChatGPT can really not only make our interview prep better, but it can also absolutely speed up the amount of time we need to prep. And that is so critical because usually when we're prepping, it's pretty aggressive, right? We get the interview and then we're diving into prep. So we want to save time. But from a strategy perspective, and I did it focused in on a GCA interview yesterday, but it really, that's the strategy for any interview that's going to ask you hypothetical questions. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, check it out. It's a longer video. As always, not everybody's comfortable doing this, but you can watch me on 2x. I'm pretty low. I'm pretty slow. That's very intentional. I really try and slow down my pace as much as possible just to make sure that I'm communicating clearly. And obviously, that's a tactic that you want to use in the job interviews and negotiating, but mirroring your audience is critical. If they're moving fast, you got to pick up the pace, and then ultimately the goal is to try and slow them down. But great tips on clarifying questions, frameworks. ChatGPT can help you create fantastic pre-planned assumptions. All will be critical for crushing the GCA interview or just answering hypothetical questions in general. So, quick prompt on my services, and then we'll dive in. We got people visiting from all over the place. I can already tell. So, it's awesome. So, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. If this is your first time here, practiceinterviews.com is my business. I do one-on-one interview and one-on-one negotiation coaching. You can check out those services at practiceinterviews.com. We also have a killer interview mastery course. You can check that out as well. Free resources on the website are great. The Slack community, that Slack link is working now. So we have about 4,000 members in the Slack community. That's free. I'll check in usually once every day or two to just answer questions, and then the community is holding each other up. My AI practice interview tool is now beginning development. So I am going to have a lot more information on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to beta a really, really basic version of it for free. So we're going to get a sign up list. We're going to capture emails, and we're going to get that beta out to people who are interested. That should be out relatively soon. So I'll keep everybody updated. Obviously, I'm super excited about this, but that's all I'm going to say for now. If you like what I'm doing, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 10 a.m. Pacific every single Tuesday, and then back to new original content every other Monday. And I'm now going after a short strategy. So I'm going to start posting more shorts, YouTube shorts every Wednesday. So just trying to drive a little bit more content. Whew. Okay, let's have some fun. Again, thank you so much for being here. Okay. Hi, Jeff from LA. All right, my northern neighbor. With the recent layoffs of recruiting teams, when should I reach out for an update, and who should it go out to? I finished my on-site 3 weeks ago and was expecting a response from my recruiter last week. I sent a follow-up email last Friday, no response. Is it best to wait for a response or reach out again? So, of course, I've been saying I can never remember this, and then I had it as a banner for forever, and I keep forgetting to bring it in. So, Google-candidate-support at google.com. Go ahead and send an email to them right now. I believe that team's offshore. They usually respond within 24 hours. There's a decent chance that your recruiter was impacted. So use that address and I'm just going to hold it here for one more second just to make sure you can capture it. About 500 recruiters plus were impacted. There were some other smaller little layoffs that happened as well. Hey, Liz from Sarasota, India. Two from India. Thanks for showing up. I know it's getting pretty late. San Diego, that's where I'm at. So great spot. Hopefully we get some sun today. It's been a very gray year. Morocco, amazing. Boston, my hometown. Oh, this is amazing. Thanks for being here. Is it okay to connect with my boss on LinkedIn in the professional work world? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would be connecting with your boss, your skip lead, your colleagues, people on other teams. Yeah, connect with everybody. No challenge there whatsoever that I can see. Jeff, hope you had a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Right back at you. Thanks for being here. With the rise of AI detectors, do you think it's something to consider when using ChatGPT in your application process? Okay, let's dive into this a little. Oh, that's just one question. Okay, with the rise of AI detectors, do you think it's something to consider when using ChatGPT? No, I don't think that those AI detectors are. I feel like they're more based on people who um, are like writing papers for school. That's to look at copywriting, etc. There are some really great tools, by the way. Just Google them. If you are writing some sort of text, it can get around and kind of there's way to maneuver around it looking like it was AI and not created. But I think in the job application process, it's just not important, even for writing cover letters, which I strongly don't recommend unless they're asked for. But no, I would not worry. I would not worry too much about that. I would still use ChatGPT to fix up your resume, fix up your cover letter, etc. And if you're doing a writing sample or a writing sample is asked for in the interview process, then I would run it through one of those tools. Good question. Just heard from recruiter at G that my on-site interview feedback is excellent. Amazing, Max. I'm already almost team matched. What can I expect now? What is the usual sequence regarding offer, negotiation, etc.? Um, I would probably want a little bit more context on almost team matched. If you do have to go through a team match, which it sounds like you went through more of a generic process going in, then it's team match, hiring committee. Unfortunately, executive review is back, so it's got to be approved by leadership. All roles are being approved by leadership. Then you'd get into the negotiation and offer stage. Do not bring up comp, do not negotiate until your level is confirmed. And then, of course, once level is confirmed, go baller, right? You got to go big, anchor high for roles. Okay, I hope that helps. Yeah, 500. I don't know if that was public information, but it is. I think it's pretty public now. Yeah, 500 plus recruiters. I don't know the overall percentage of recruiters that was, but look, I think if we flash back to pre-freeze, which would be June of last year, so now it's getting to be a while, but there were maybe 4,300 roles open then. I don't know how many roles are open now, but it's low thousands probably. So you're only hiring for one fourth of the roles. You just don't need all the recruiters. Now, some were obviously impacted in the earlier in the year layoffs in January, but I think they just needed to trim the fat a little bit and get rid of some more people. Hi, Jeff. Your live stream is very useful. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I'm currently an L3 project manager for 3 years at Amazon, thinking for applying internally for an L5 program manager. How do you think it's best to go about this? I just have not seen these big tech organizations bump you up 2 levels for applying internally. Usually, it's an apples for apples when you're applying internally. You're going from L3 to L3. You may want to speak to some of your internal colleagues. Just do a little bit more searching and digging. But I've never seen anybody jump 2 levels in the same role when applying internally. I just haven't seen it. I don't want to stop you from doing it, but that's something that they're absolutely going to look for, and they're going to ask, okay, does Hunter really align with an L5 considering they're at an L3 right now? Just something to consider. Okay. But definitely do your internal research. Maybe a leap up if it's like time for you to get promoted. But usually, what I recommend is applying internally and switching roles once you've been promoted, because it's much, much easier to move off of a promotion. Sometimes, even if, let's say, they considered the L5 role at an L3 level because they really liked you, you're setting back the clock. So, anytime we make any internal move, I strongly encourage to move off of a promo. Now, sometimes we need to get away from our manager, we don't like the work, etc. So, there's other reasons to move, but you can be setting back the clock. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions. Thanks, Jeff, for your guidance and publishing useful content on cracking Google interviews. Super grateful. Absolutely. I was asked by my recruiter to provide a list of names of current employees and the base salary I would accept if given the offer. It's a director level, not sure if it's L8 or L9. Okay, let's talk about these items separately. The list of names of current employees that you provide, please make 100% sure that if you are going to provide any names, that these people will say great things about you. A bad internal reference, and this is just for anybody, a bad internal reference will instantly shut down the process. So just be very confident in who you're sharing. I had to reject multiple candidates in my time at Google because they provided internal references and those people did not say good things. And you won't know, but maybe now you will know if they just instantly stop the process. That's usually a reason why. Now, base salary, that's weird for a director level role because the base salary should be posted. So if you see a range at a director level, we're probably talking 250 to 350 or something like that on the range. Say, oh, I'd be interested in coming in at the top of the range at 350. Now, of course, the top of the range is designated, let's say it's in the US, for the premium plus markets, Bay and New York. So you're only going to get that premium base salary, but they should be telling you the base salary. It should be in the job description. If the job's not posted, they have to tell you. If they tell you, no, you need to tell us, that's actually illegal. If you ask for a base salary, basically in most states in the US, maybe it's not most, but about half the states in most of these states is where Google is. Google's also a California based company. If they won't provide the base salary, that it's actually illegal in most cases. I hope that helps. And then director level is L8, senior director is L9. And I don't want to say they don't hire above director externally. Of course they do. But the vast majority of people who are coming in at that level of leadership are coming in at the director level, not senior director. So that would be an L8. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions. Hi from Canada. Hi to our northern neighbor. So I've requested a referral via LinkedIn and I was told, sure, okay. Context, I also provided that link to the role plus my top qualifications in one easy shot. Then nothing, followed up one time, nada. What's next? Um, okay. So, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can let it go because clearly this person just doesn't want to support you. Or one recommendation, I don't believe I've ever made it here, but let's do it. There is a tool called Contact Out. Again, that's Contact Out. Contact Out provides people with email addresses, phone numbers, etc. And if you sign up, they give you like 5 contacts for free. It's very accurate. They're not the only one out there, but they tend to be the most accurate. So you can use that as a way to text them or email them if you don't have those pieces of contact info. I would hope that if the person is referring you, that you would have those items, but can maybe try one more time. But I don't know. That's just not a great sign, obviously. I recently had positive team match calls, was told that they're finding HC availability. Is it typical or indicate a need for additional due diligence, perhaps due to borderline ratings? Um, they're finding HC availability. To me, that's referencing that they're moving on to hiring committee. You may want to just confirm that. Say, okay, we're looking for HC availability. Is HC going to meet on my behalf in the next week, couple weeks? Just wanted to clarify. Thank you so much. You can send that in an email. One of the items that's really changed since I left, and it just honestly, I don't understand it at all, is I knew exactly when HC met. I knew exactly when my candidate was going to go into HC, the day, the time. I would tell my candidate the day and time and tell them right when I finish speaking to HC about you, I'm going to call you. And so that could be 15 minutes into HC, an hour into HC, but I would kind of give my candidates the heads up on that. I think seems to be a little bit more sporadic, but you should literally know the day and time you're going in and should hear from them immediately after. You are a candidate that's far enough in the process that you should get that respect and they should have that type of follow up. Oh, okay. Answered that one. Just looked at open roles at G, 1845. Oh, okay. Okay, that's a good number. Thank you for sharing that, Liz. That's helpful. And I mean, I think I've been very transparent about what my business has looked like this year in comparison to the last couple of years where Google was really busy hiring, and not just Google, of course, Amazon, Meta, Apple, all the big tech companies where most of my clients come in. And this year with just the tech layoffs and drop off, it's been really slow. But August and September have been busier, and that 1845 number is probably one of the reasons why. Sorry, should I go for an L9? How about going to top of comp range? Um, I don't think that you can go for L9, but we don't know. So I just want you to clarify that item. Is this role an L8 director or L9 senior director? If it's a senior director role, again, it should be posted that way. I rarely see senior director posted. I see director and VP posted, but rarely senior director. I can't remember the last time I saw one of those posted. Now, of course, now that I'm saying that, somebody can go find it right now, but that's just been from my experience. You're welcome. Hi, Jeff. I'm considering a transfer at G after 1 year. My team is that bad. The culture is chaotic, and I'm not sure I'm getting the focus time to deliver features for promo. Yeah, and this is like the promo time, right? So if you don't get promoed and you're really unhappy, then yeah, just after a year, it may be time to switch. But again, I just want to be really clear that, in my opinion, typically when we transfer internally at the same level, we're setting the clock back. So it's just something to be aware of. Now, can you hang out for a full year additional on this team? Maybe not. And our mental health is obviously the most important item, more important than the money or promo. We need to show up every day and feel happy and engaged. Otherwise, it's just going to not only be negative in that aspect of our lives, but it will draw down on all the other aspects of our life. So, Something to consider. And then, should I treat the internal transfer process like team matches? If it's for a like or similar role, meaning you're not moving the ladder, meaning software engineer to software engineer, program manager to program manager, product manager to product manager, for example, then it's just going to be more like a team match. If it was program to product manager, you'd have to re-interview, essentially. I hope that helps. Where are you getting this information about layoffs? Well, it was posted publicly, but the 500 plus is from somebody I know internally. Um, but but that, I think that's public knowledge at this point. I think the numbers are public knowledge. But I saw the post. Obviously, I had friends who were unfortunately impacted by these layoffs. But yeah, I was able to confirm internally with somebody. I always have my internal resources that I'm going to, and of course, whenever these layoffs occur, I got my list of people who I'm going to text immediately and just check in with them and make sure they're safe. My core group of people has really pretty much remained unaffected. And I think that's all because at this point, all those people are at 10 plus years. They're all killing it. And that's why they've been able to stay so long and be successful. But yeah, internal data. That was really long winded. Thanks for the question, though. Hey Jeff, do you have any pulse if G is freezing or reducing openings after the recruiting team reduction? I don't think so. I mean, 1875, I think that's what Liz said. Oh, 1845. 1845 looks pretty good. So remember, this is the hiring push. Regardless of what's going on in these organizations, usually positions are allocated and budgeted for in the beginning of the year, or at least early in the year or throughout the year. It's a use it or lose it model. If these hiring managers don't hire for these positions, if these roles don't get filled, sometimes they'll lose it. So you'll see a pretty heavy push. September, October, November tend to be some of the busiest hiring months, even though some people think, oh, by November it's slowed down. No, November can be absolutely crazy. And even the first couple weeks of December can also be pretty crazy. I was rejected from an AE role at Google after the final round and 4 interviews. Was wondering how I should reapply as it's been 3 months. Should I reach out to the recruiter hiring manager before applying? So they're not going to re-interview you for the same role. Usually they're going to make you wait a year. So that's just something to be aware of. Now you can always touch base with the recruiter. AE roles, there are some other similar roles that you may be able to explore, but same exact role, they're not going to re-interview you. It's typically a year is what they do. I hope that helps. Okay, received an offer. It's contingent upon successful completion of degree prior to start date. I completed degree requirements, but waiting for a degree to be conferred. Would this affect the offer? Nope. As long as it's contingent upon a successful completion of your degree, it sounds all good. If there's any additional context that you can add that you think might be valuable for me, please let me know. But it sounds good. Congrats. Hi, Jeff. I applied for a couple of customer engineer positions. I have a referral. Those applications went straight to not proceeding. Is that normal? I was expecting at least an email. Um, Yeah, it's not uncommon, but yeah, sometimes I would expect at least an email or something, but this does absolutely happen, unfortunately. I would say if you have a referral, please keep trying. There are comparable or similar roles to CE roles that you might want to explore. And that could be anything from like a sales engineer to a TAM to maybe you have some architect experience. Those are other like or similar roles. Do you know what upleveling looks like for transfers? I've heard it's possible. Okay. Um, I don't possible. Anything's possible, right? But at 1 year, moving from one team to another, up leveling, is pretty unlikely. I just wouldn't count on it. Again, anything's possible. I'm not here to tell anybody what is possible and what's not possible, but it's a lower percentage. Okay. And then how about comp? Do transfers have a positive effect on comp, or do transfers have no impact on comp? Transferring from a like or the same role have no impact on comp. Your comp stays the exact same. Hi. If you transfer inside an American company from UK to the US, can you change jobs and stay in the US? If you transfer inside an American company from the UK to the US, can you change jobs and stay in the US? I think so, but you'd have to check because sponsorship is contingent upon you filling a role that somebody in the US cannot be found to fill. So you'd probably want to dive a little bit deeper into that item. I don't know the answer 100%. I have two questions. What is the hiring committee reviewing given I've read it's a 10-minute process per candidate? How many candidates are they required to review before extending an offer? Um, so the length of time hiring committee will spend on any single candidate just depends on the feedback. So what's happened is that in the past there were clear-cut cases, clear no cases, and then the middle cases. Let's take an example of 6 candidates going to hiring committee. 2 were usually just easy passes. 2 were kind of more clear. The recruiter was trying to push it through, the hiring manager was trying to push it through. It was no, and then 2 people really needed to be discussed. So sometimes a discussion about one person can be 20 to 30 minutes. Now, what they've done is they've removed the barrier to entry on hiring committee. Like if it's really clear cut, they're not taking it to hiring committee. They're just saying this is a clear cut hire. Let's just move it, make sure that leadership approves the role and move to the offer stage. But the amount of time they spend is really dependent on them just diving in and going through the data. How many candidates are they required to review before extending an offer? One. One. I mean, it's if it's you, Bob, Sue, and Jane, and you come out as the best candidate, they're just going to take you to hiring committee. They're not going to take multiple candidates to hiring committee. This is a little bit of an insider tip and trick. You'll hear not only Google recruiters, but these big tech recruiters just saying, hey, there's a list of great candidates behind you. Not true. It's just in so many instances, 80, 90%, that's just a false statement. It is very difficult to pass the process at any of these big tech companies. And in this case, obviously Google, there's just not a line of people waiting behind you. It's just not that easy. So just something to keep in mind. I hope that helps. As someone who's gotten a PhD plus 5 years of experience, 1 year at G, should I feel self-conscious of being at an L4? How much on average can comp increase while not up-leveling with meets expectations? Okay. And then there's no standard about when people should move to L5 from L5 to L6. Okay, so um I so let's talk a little bit about let's just take a moment to talk a little bit about level. And I say this, I want to like set the psychological safety on this item, but to me personally, and not everybody likes this comment, but to me, level is ego and comp is comp. I care about the money. Now, level and comp are directly correlated, so it's not that easy to drop the first item, but all the titles and leveling, we just want to make sure that we're getting compensated appropriately. That's the most important item that I like to focus in on when speaking to people about it. How much on average can comp increase while not leveling at a meets expectations? Well, your merit increase could be 7, 8, 9%. They're usually pretty generous on a merit. Just because you meet expectations doesn't mean it's a 15% target bonus. At an L4, that could mean even 16 or 17%. There's little bands within the band. Um, So you might get some good comp increases, and then again, you're going to be getting refreshers too. And what that looks like is going to vary greatly, but you'll get refreshers at the beginning of next year if you've been there for a full year. And there is no standard when people should move from L5 to L6. Google internally, I'll just tell you what they say is that they want you to be performing at the next level for a minimum of 2 quarters or 6 months. That is the barrier to getting to that next level. Um, and remember, a lot of this is dependent upon your manager pushing for you, the impact that you're having in your role. And I just don't want anybody to listen to anyone that says you can't get promoted within X period of time. There's always going to be outliers. Okay. So just something to keep in mind. We're at the 30s. Just a quick prompt to my services, few seconds, and then we'll get right back to it. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. The business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview and one-on-one negotiation coaching. I also have a killer interview mastery course. My AI practice interviews tool is going to be coming out. The beta will probably be out in the next month or so. We're going to get an email sign-up list. We're going to let people try it out for free, give us some feedback, and then we'll be probably rolling a paid version late this year, early next year. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, please consider subscribing. 10 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, I go live, and new original content every Monday. And now you're going to start to see more shorts coming out every Wednesday as well. Jeff, long time no talk. Now that AI is the must-have feature, how would you present new training on AI for Google and other top-tier tech companies? So the way I'm thinking about AI in the job interviews is this is where it becomes really interesting in hypothetical questions specifically. So let's talk about it a little bit. When you're making your assumptions and your hypothetical answers, if your role has some component or AI is going to impact your role, welcome to the world, right? We are making assumptions that bring AI into the conversation. Why? Because it's interesting. Of course, we're solving with AI as a benefit within our role. We're not getting outside of our role. So if it's program management or product management or whatever it's going to be, we're going to answer that hypothetical question using AI that's going to help the position we're interviewing for. But I think bringing it into the equation is really important. AI, we could spend a ton of time talking about this, and maybe we'll have some downtime to talk about it. But I think that there's really two schools of thought on AI just in general. And this is a little bit of a side tangent, but there's one school that thinks it's just going to improve and enhance our jobs. And then there's another school that thinks it's going to replace our jobs. I'm in the latter. I think that we're going to be replaced. And that's just my personal opinion. Not everybody agrees with it, but that's how I'm planning and thinking about the future. I think in 5 years, you will not need me. And that's just my opinion. Again, I don't know that everybody agrees with it. And actually, I've run a lot of LinkedIn polls that show me that people don't agree with it. But that's how I'm planning for the future. I'm planning that the job that I'm currently doing absolutely will not exist, that it can be done by AI. And so I'm mentally creating the plan with that in mind. All right, that was a little bit of a tangent. Let's move on. Okay, so that was just doubled up. Okay. Hey, contacted by a G India recruiter in April of 2023 for an L5 SWE interview. Had a phone screen in June, then informed it will be scheduled to on-site soon, but then asked to have a mock interview. Okay, let's see if there's more here. How long does the process take? Should this be taken seriously? Okay, so let's go back here. I'm going to again bring in this banner here. I would use this. If you got into the interview process and they were going to move forward to on-site and then they completely went dark on you, then you will want to use this. Now, this is only an email address to be used if you reached out to your recruiter a few times and they didn't respond. But since June to move to the on-site, either your recruiter's no longer there or they're terrible at their job. Okay, so if you have reached out to them a few times and haven't heard back, use this email address. You'll usually hear back within 24 hours. And good luck. Come back and let us know. Okay, now I'm lost in the comments. Where were we here? Okay, here we go. As a Googler, if you're not in line with your manager, you have everything you need for grad. You need, as a Googler, if you're not in line with your manager and you have everything you need, you'll have a hard time getting promoted. 100%. So here's how it works at Google. It's a promo committee. So your manager actually isn't the person who decides on promotion. A committee of people will decide on promotion, but your manager has to support putting you up for promo. If they don't, it's going to be a pretty tough barrier to entry. Now, if you think it's really biased and there's a real challenge, you may need to speak with your manager, bring in the skip lead, etc. But that can be a really, really challenging path. But if it's clear that you deserve to be promoted to the next level, you may have to take a unique approach, but tread lightly, okay? We can't just jump up to our skip lead and say, hey, I want to be promoted, and my manager doesn't support me. You need to have a direct conversation about it with your manager and say, hey, I'm interested in promo. Would you be willing to put me up? We're really kind of hitting that end date. If that date hasn't already closed this year, it's probably within a week of closing. It's almost always in September that people are being put up for promotion. If they say, no, you're not ready, I'd like to map out a plan over the next 3 to 6 months to make sure that I'm on the promotion path next year. Map out the plan, write it down, achieve those items. And then if you achieve those items and they're still saying they're not going to put you up for promo, then that's a great case to go to the skip lead and say, I did everything and more that the manager asked, and they're still not putting me up for promo. Bad managers exist everywhere. And if we can escape them, great. We can also manage our managers, right? So we need to be driving the outcomes. We need to play nice. There's all sorts of ways to manage our manager. We can get more into that if you like. I stayed in touch with a G recruiter after not receiving an offer. Told me to stay in touch. What's the best way to request a referral for a job I want to apply for? So, okay, let's see, Marcia. I have no idea if they are safe after the news of the layoff. Okay, so we don't, and I just want to make sure I'm getting this right so you can come back and re-ask, but we definitely don't ask our recruiters for a referral, but we can ask our recruiter to pass on our resume for a job we're interested in. So what does that process look like? Super simple, one at a time. Do not overwhelm your recruiter. If you send them 5 or 3 or 5 or 10 jobs, they're going to do nothing. Try to identify one job that you're really excited about. Let's say your recruiter is Jane. So you send it over to Jane and you say, hey, Jane, I came across this great role. You send the specific link. You say, here are 3 to 5 reasons why I think I'm a good fit. List out those reasons. Provide your availability to speak about the role over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Put your email address and your phone number in that email. I know it sounds ridiculous because you're actually emailing them. And then attach an updated resume that you've run through ChatGPT along with your current resume to change out the summary to get really good role alignment. You do all those things, and you're just going to uptick the potential that that recruiter would help you. But they'd just be passing it on to another recruiter, not actually be a referrer. And then I would just say, we don't know if our recruiters are safe. The first place I would go is LinkedIn. See if they've put an open to work banner on there. See if they've put any sort of activity that they were impacted. Oh, and we talked about that before. Typical process for any Google role is usually 2 to 3 months. But I know it was June since you've heard anything. What number is a good anchor for an L5 pixel algo engineer? Not exactly software engineer, but likely working on the software side of the product. Mountain View, Anchor L5, pixel algorithm engineer. I mean, I think you can go pretty high. Again, it would depend on On the engineering piece, I'd probably be anchoring at least into the fives, maybe into the sixes even. I had an outlier. I won't get too into the details, but I had an L5 outlier that we got into the sevens. But that was, and it was not a software engineer, but it was a very unique case. There was some AI component in there. And so anything that's going to bring AI or ML, there's some wiggle room, but I would probably be anchoring high fives into the sixes. And then if for any reason they hit that, you can always take a step back and say, I've had to reassess the position and I actually need X. Because if they're hitting fives or sixes for an L5 pixel engineer role, you know that it's a very high in demand, niche down role that has some really good bandwidth internally to pay you well. I hope that helps. Regarding my L3 to L5 question, I'm on a fixed term contract. And when it comes, I would like to apply internally and I only see L5 roles available. Oh, fixed term contract. So you're not actually technically a level right now. I wouldn't give you a level so that maybe other people are at the L3 level. So maybe you could just go ahead and apply for the L5. Um, the job requirements ask for 3+ years of experience, and I would have had that by the time I apply and meet the other criteria if I was an external candidate for the L5 position. Okay, so Hunter, yeah, I mean, I don't want to stop you, right? Like I would say get after it. Obviously, you're already there, so you have some internal data that's going to support you. I typically don't see 3+ years of experience for L5 seems pretty lean at any company. So if you're just approaching 3 years, I don't know that L5 is the right level, but I would just try. I would see what you can do. You're there internally. Push the envelope while you're there, right? Do what you can. Just do your best. There's no reason not to try. Thank you for the amazing content. I'm about to accept a G offer. Amazing, starting early December. The only concern I have is the recent layoffs in G. Will that be followed by more layoffs and an offer rescinded? It is extremely unlikely. Google, I have not seen, I'm sure there might be an edge case, but I have not seen Google rescinding offers. Even like the first in or last in, first out. So people who were recently hired get let go first. No, they're usually trimming people who have been there a long time and they're just saying, hey, they're not going to really move up the ladder anymore for the future. And remember, this layoff was very HR specifically, recruiting specific. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Could companies lay off because of positions or anything like that? Absolutely, they could. But I wouldn't be too concerned. And congrats. Thanks for yesterday's video. Implement it. Very useful. Okay, amazing. My interview coming up with Google next week is for technical solutions architect, RRK system design. Okay, for RRK, the recruiter mentioned, let's see. RRK will have 5 questions. GCA will be included. Could you please provide any prep tips? Okay, so, wow. Okay, so first things first, your recruiter is, I'm just going back here. Your recruiter's providing terrible advice. Like, there is no way they can tell you how many questions will be asked in an interview. They don't know. They don't know the personality type of your interviewer. They don't know if that interviewer is going to show up on time, be hungover, whatever it might be. They don't know. We don't know the number of questions. Okay. So that's going to be very, very hard to predict. So if you don't get 5 questions, if you get 6 questions or 4 questions, don't worry about it. And then GCA will be included. I've seen a little bit of this lately where they're calling these like hybrid interviews. Just think about GCA in more general terms. And that's ironic, of course, because it's general cognitive ability. But what I mean is just think hypothetical questions. Okay. You're going to get hypothetical questions and you're going to need to use CFAS to solve for them. In regards to prep tips, and let's just go back here. Because it's a technical solutions architect, your RRK should be very involved in how you're coming up with technical solutions around architecture. right? So definitely utilize what, if you've implemented what came up in that video yesterday, it's going to be super, super helpful for your success. And this is a little bit new. So, technical solutions, web solutions, these used to require one coding interview. Nobody could pass them. So, they've gone more to the system design interview. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions. Hi, Jeff. I'm headed into my RRK2 case study interview today in a few hours. What are the expectations here and how can I prepare more? I did my GCA and RRK1 yesterday, and this is for a TAM role. Now, this is very much what I've seen from the TAM roles, especially lately. GCA and RRK1, then we're going right to RRK2 and then ending with a GNL. What we saw historically, or what we've seen recently, is take a large brick and mortar company online. Even if that's not the question, that's what I want you to be preparing for. You need to be providing great GCP solutions. You don't need to be a GCP expert, but you should be implementing some solutions that are GCP oriented. And of course, use the CFAS method. Also, before you get into that interview, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes beforehand, get your meditation mindset going, because you just don't want to prep right up until the interview. You'll be using brain capacity that you're going to want to be able to use in that interview. All the data and science suggests if we use our brain up until that interview, we're going to not be at 100% during the interview. Good luck. Okay. Okay, Kurt. Do recruiters or hiring managers look at a SWE applicant's GitHub profile, or is that not important? Asking as a new grad. They might look. Yeah, they might look. So, absolutely. I just think if you have information on GitHub, like, yeah, absolutely, you're going to want to share that on the resume with at least a link. Of course, we can always be highlighting what's on there, but will they look at it? Yeah, maybe. Hi, Jeff. Love your channel, especially your lives. Awesome. Thank you for the great info you provide with us. I recently got an offer and you're in the negotiation phase right now. Okay. On equity refreshers, they are a percentage of your initial equity grant. If not, how is the amount calculated? Do they happen every year or dependent on a good review? They are not a percentage of your initial equity grant. They're more based on the level, the role, the location. The way I want you to think about refreshers, if you're to model them out, is to think about them in the sense that you're not going to fall off of a cliff, right? So the equity for a company like a Google is 38, 32, 20, 10. So your comp is going to look like it's going to go down over time. We're going to assume a promo, assume that when we hit that year 4 that our comp has gone like this as opposed to like this. I hope that helps. And then sorry, the second part is, do they happen every year? Are they dependent on a good review? Refreshers are basically at a company like Google, for at least they are guaranteed. They're guaranteed at all levels of performance as long as you've been there a full calendar year. And again, I'm not sure if we're speaking about Google or not. You can let me know. Okay. I'm sorry. I think we might have gotten the same question. Oh, it just got repeated. No need to repeat questions. I'll get to everything. And if I don't, just yell at me. Um, okay, yeah, no need to repeat questions. It's just gonna muddle it up a little bit and make me spend a long time squinting. I'll definitely get to everything. Hi, Tina. Thank you so much for being here. Okay. I keep running into Jeff Sipe alumni in meetings. It's great to see how many people you've helped. I'll keep sending folks your way. Tina is our rock star ABP, and occasionally, Tina, I'm not going to put you too much on the spot, but occasionally, if you come into our Slack community and ask questions about the ABP role, she'll be happy to help. Tina will be the first to tell you that she was part of a very long team match process of about 11 months. So Sometimes it takes a tremendous amount of mental fortitude and patience, and Tina definitely exemplifies that. And always amazing to have you here. Thanks so much for being here. It's always interesting to get those plugs from internal Googlers who I never interacted with, I never spoke with, and I sometimes hear that people used my content. There was a really funny recent story. I won't get into too much of the weeds for confidentiality, but it's just always funny. Yeah, I'll skip getting into that a little bit. Okay, Melody, is it worth it to directly email or cold call hiring managers if their email is available online for networking, or can that be perceived as too aggressive? This is for mid-market sales roles. So let's go into the strategy. And so the strategy is really simple. If you've identified hiring managers that you're interested in engaging with, and you think they're a hiring manager, we don't always know. Sometimes they're very open about that. LinkedIn is our strategy, and we give first. And so let's talk about mid market sales roles. You'd go to Google search, you'd go to the tools piece, which is in the top right section, pull up an article or video that's from the last week. And let's say the hiring manager is Sue. We send that off to Sue. We say, "Hey, Sue, came across your profile, looks awesome. I came across this recent article that I thought you would find really valuable. Check it out. Have a great day." You'll send that to people who you have a second connection with as a connection request. But in that message, you're not going to ask for anything. And the reason why is that people are constantly asking for things you're just going to give. You're going to need to do it multiple times. But if you do, it will be super beneficial. That's my networking strategy. It works, but it takes time and it takes patience, but we don't ask because the likelihood that they'll give us something is small. Just try it and see if it works. Given the recent layoffs in the recruiting team, is there any concern about potential role eliminations or imminent hiring freeze again? I'm not worried about either of these items. I just think that they had too many recruiters for the total number of roles they have open. That's it. Again, 1845 is what Liz shared with us. 1845 openings is pretty good. That's higher than it's been all year, even though admittedly I don't keep a real pulse on it. So I can't say for sure, but there's a lot of roles open. I'm not really worried about that, but do I think we'll ever get back to 4,000 or 4,500 openings? Probably never. You're welcome. Jeff, I did my first round for an L7 agency sales role with the hiring manager director. What level of complexity of questions can I expect from directors and the VPs who will interview me? Um, Actually, surprisingly, sometimes the level of complexity is less at the higher levels. The higher levels, when they interview you, especially directors and VPs, it can be more casual. The biggest thing to remember is to stay sharp, keep that positive pitch and tone, and a little bit less is more model. When you speak with leadership, you want to be a little bit briefer, a little bit shorter. So cut back on your answers just a little bit. But complexity, I'm not too worried about the complexity. Just be able to talk about large scope, large scale, geographically dispersed teams are a few things you'll want to keep in mind and prepare for. The recruiting team layoffs news, will it impact hiring plans of a recruiter as part of the layoff and handling that particular role? Um, I don't believe that. I don't know, and I can't say for sure, but in the first layoff earlier this year, there was no transition plan for recruiters who were laid off, and that to me is really poor planning and a bad candidate experience. It appears that the same thing happened this time around, but I can't say for sure. But it's not going to impact the roles or hiring plans. It just means that there could be some glitches as they try to move forward with people who are in the process. Um, Have you done a video on managing your manager? No. I think I could do maybe a LinkedIn post. What I try to do with the YouTube channel is I try to stay heavily within the niche, which is basically anything job search related, but obviously the massive impact that I believe I bring is interviewing and negotiation. But I try not to bring in the internal politics and working through those items just because it's a little bit off brand for me. This is something that I learned pretty early on with my YouTube channel. Now, it's something I would definitely consider creating like one of those multiple frame LinkedIn posts for. So it's a great idea. But yeah, I think probably not a video because again, it's just a little bit off brand. That's all. Hi, Jeff. I interviewed at Google and got HC approved for an L3 SWE in July 2022, but didn't move forward due to the hiring freezes. I will now have to interview to try for an L4. Any advice? But you'd like to try for an L4. Sorry, that was important language change there. Um, yeah, I don't see any challenges with going after an L4. If you have an additional year plus of experience and you think that your experience is more aligned with an L4, and if they come back and say, hey, you were approved for an L3, you can say, yeah, absolutely. But I started those interviews, about a year to a year and a half ago, and I think my experience is more aligned for L4. But yeah, it's still at an L4. Still going to be mostly coding with one GNL interview, right? They're only bringing in system design at L5. Let me know if you have more questions. Awesome. Once you land an interview, is your resume basically irrelevant from then on in the process? In other words, will your interview performance be a determining factor for being chosen? Yeah, your resume becomes pretty irrelevant, except, of course, if you want to add in accomplishments or updates, it's something that at the end of the process, hiring committee would be looking at. So you can add on to it later, but as of right now, not important. Implemented the chat GPT tips and tricks for my interview. Very helpful. Amazing. Hi, Jeff. Could you please help me understand the level of hierarchy in Google's sales domain? Level of hierarchy. Let me try. Well, the hierarchy is going to be pretty typical, right? We're going to get to the top levels within the sales domain, which could be C level, VP, senior director, director. Then we might have a potential head role, which is typically L7. Now, if we're talking, maybe let's go on the ad side, for example, then you'd have an account executive that could be up to a 7, an account manager that could be up to a 5 or a 6, and then an account strategist that might go up to maybe like an L3, L4. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions. I'm up for an L5 position. They reached out to me, looks very promising with advanced intelligence. Is all the L5 compensation the same? Nope. It depends on role and location. Role and location will be two major drivers of comp. Thanks a lot for the anchor number. Super helpful. Look, the biggest thing to remember is if you go baller with Google and you go in with a really big number, they're not going to reject you. They might say, look, that's just simply not possible, but they're not going to reject you. So just something to keep in mind and good luck. Obviously, I'm here to help if you need it, but it sounds like you got things under control. At G, with the scale and managers being busy, tangible steps to help your life at G would be huge. With me, our one-to-ones don't lead to direct change, and we may not know exactly what to ask of our manager. Okay. I'm just seeing. Okay. I'm just trying to just gauge this a little bit. So, in the one-to-ones, in my opinion, when I had the opportunity to really step away from Google and reflect, I realized that the biggest challenge in the one-to-ones for me was that I wasn't more of the driver and taking a more assertive approach with leadership. And specifically, I wanted it to be more OKR driven, right? So I should have been going into every one to one and saying, these are my quarterly goals and making sure that that was my number one priority because I'm always trying to work towards the bigger goals. Then trying to have my manager help me remove roadblocks, but really taking ownership and driving towards goal related items, I think is probably the best approach. I hope that helps. Okay. I'm just actually going to take a quick pause here. We're at the hour. Thank you so much for being here. Really engaged, good conversation. I'm about 20 minutes behind. I will pick up the pace a little bit and try and catch up. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sight. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview and one-on-one negotiation coaching. Also have a killer interview mastery course. You can check that out all at practiceinterviews.com. AI practice interview tool is in the beginning stages of development. We're going to get a beta out. We're going to capture emails and just give the beta away for free and get some user feedback. It's going to be really lean, really a kind of MVP, not even a V1, but we want people to test it and get feedback. That should be coming out soon. The more I know, the sooner we get there, I'll let people know. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 10 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. New original content every Monday. And then on Wednesdays, I'm going to be driving more shorts content as well. Okay, so I think we were in this one. So let's try this one. Hi, Jeff. If an L5G role has a base salary between 130 and 193, and I live in the Bay Area, is it a certainty that HC would not be willing to go anywhere near the top of that band? I've seen on the salary ranges that they are not really hitting the top of that band. Typically, that's not to say that there aren't outliers, but because you're in the Bay, you are going to sit at the very top because that range is a US base salary range. And the Bay and New York are the premium plus markets that pay the most in the US. So you should be leaning towards the top end of that band for sure. Do tech companies provide corporate housing for new grad employees, or is that not common? Um, I haven't seen that unless you're reloading and you have a reload package. But you'd have to be speaking with your recruiter and your reload coordinator about that. But just giving temp housing if you're local would be a no. I was contacted last week rather aggressively for a contract role on behalf of a FANG company. I'm curious on what your thoughts about TVC demand are right now. Okay. TVC, if TVCs are in higher demand, does that give us more negotiating room for contract rates given contracts are 12 months with the option to extend 6 months, but usually can't go on long? Okay, so Liz, let's talk about this. Um, Contract roles are negotiable. This is really important for people to understand. I just want to use some really simple math here. Let's say it's a contract role and the agency that's reaching out to you wants to pay you 50 an hour. The strong likelihood is that Google is paying that agency. Let's call them ABC Corp. They're paying ABC Corp 100 an hour. It's 100% markup. That is the agency goal. I've worked in multiple recruiting agencies. The goal was always 100% markup. But if you need 60 an hour, for example, you're only chopping into the profit margin for ABC Corp. Okay. You're not actually taking any money away. And if they say, well, Google won't let us pay you that, that is a false statement. You're just chopping into their profits. And contract roles are negotiable. Will they always up the money? No, not always. Should you consider a contract role? Always. But the comp has to align because 12 to 18 months, if they love you, they're going to try and convert you. I hope that helps. Okay, Tina. Okay. Please connect with Tina on Slack. Okay. Make sure that you're taking that step. If she's offering, take the help, please. Is skipping promotion Is skipping promotion not commonplace then? Perhaps if you're moving internally to a completely different part of the business in another country altogether? I'm not 100% sure on the question. Skipping promotion, I would just say, you're not likely to you're likely just setting back the clock on promo if you move teams, but please let me know. I don't know if that's answering your question. Yes, Google. Okay. Okay, good. So hopefully that feedback was relevant. My team match length is nearing 14 months, Tina. We have something in common. Yes, these long team matches are an indication of a lack of internal awareness that this just can't go on. My recommendation would be to do a hard stop on team matching at a certain set amount of time, call it 3 months, close out the application and tell that candidate you'll reach out in the future if there's more opportunities because just team match in perpetuity just doesn't seem to be working and it's creating a negative candidate experience. And again, I think that this is just one of the pieces of advice I would have for Google is that um, there's a little bit of a lack of awareness when it comes to candidate experience. And because of all the layoffs and recruiters are constantly coming and going, it just doesn't seem to be as uniform as it should be. Awesome. Good luck. How is 310K total comp for an L4 suite in Boston? I'll have to evaluate how my comp increases in December to figure out how fast I need to move to L5. I fear I'm on the top of the band as well. 310 total comp, L4 suite in Boston is not unreasonable. Use case brick and mortar going that wants business that wants to go online. That's the most recent case study that I've heard of. Do you think that Google and other companies reshaping themselves in terms of the new job titles, which will be added in the future? Okay. Actually, I'm pointing to technology jobs in the future of work. Um, I don't know. I don't know if titles are going to change. I'm not really sure. Um, but yeah, we're going to see more roles that are probably going to have Gen AI and some sort of working with Gen AI, and that could come in every single aspect from really heavy technical roles to program management roles to human resources roles. Your ability to utilize Gen AI is going to be really, really critical, and it's going to happen just incredibly fast. We just cannot slow down the pace of AI. And I saw an interesting TikTok yesterday that was saying ChatGPT 4 is 10 times better than 3.5. And just how much I use it, I would have to agree with that. So each new iteration is going to get better and better. It's going to happen really quickly. And I just, again, I always just want to inform the community what I'm seeing in the technology space. AI is going to be so disruptive and the pace that it happens at is going to keep doubling on top of each other, meaning we're looking at AI as more static and not like this evolution that's going to happen at a faster and faster pace. And that's what I want people to just be envisioning. With the market of layoffs, I also wonder if some orgs and teams are more safe if they are business critical. Those teams also tend to have a chaotic culture. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, um, some teams are always going to be more safe. And if you're at a company like Google, sometimes they'll just say, hey, this business unit isn't working anymore, and they'll lay people off. So um, things can get pretty chaotic for sure. Chaotic in the sense of responsibilities changed week to week. Yeah. It sounds like your organization is chaotic, and clearly you just need to ex- you just need to explore all your options. That's going to be the most important part. Hey Jeff, are you hearing about anything about recruiters delaying the SWE onsite until after a potential team match is identified? A friend is currently interviewed and was told this by their recruiter. Yeah, this policy came out again, just from what I hear. I don't do so much poking internally, but I heard about 6 months ago they wanted to, or maybe it's been this entire year because can't believe it's already getting to be the end of September, but that they were going to try and do an initial interview, say, okay, this candidate is a good fit, but let's find a team for them before we put them through the process. And that's to avoid what other people are facing, like that comment we just saw about somebody being in the team match for 14 months. So, yes, this is a little bit more of an approach across the board that they're trying to identify, hey, is this candidate good? They'll do an interview and then trying to get a team match before they take them through the next stages so you can avoid these very long team match instances. How do I know which level of PM position I'm applying for? The job description doesn't say whether it's L5 or L6. They're never going to say. But typically, you kind of have a feel based on years of experience, what the role is looking for. Even when you get into the process, if you ask the recruiter, they're not going to tell you. So you need to tell them. It looks like this role is an L5 or L6. Can you confirm that? And then just have them answer. And if they're like, well, I can't tell you, say, well, I'm really targeting an L6. Can we set up the interview process to target an L6 role? Because if L5s are interviewing you, they're not going to consider you for an L6 role. Not typically. They want you to be interviewing with people at or above your level. I hope that helps. Thanks for the tips. Great content as usual. You're a national treasure. I love that. Thanks for that. By the way, did you mention that you didn't make your one-on-ones OKR focused in hindsight? Yeah, I actually I can get really specific. I'm pretty much an open book, and I don't think anybody watching this would really know. But in my one-to-ones in my last position, I was so shut down by what was happening that I stopped talking at all. And I would show up to the one-to-ones and say, yeah, I got nothing to say. And I did that, and that didn't play well for me. And in retrospect, I should not have taken that approach, but I was a little ready to go. I was maybe a little disgruntled. Like it just was my time, right? And everybody experiences this, and for a host of factors, right? But it was just my time to move on. I was ready to move on and do something different, and now I'm incredibly grateful and blessed to be able to be chatting with this audience from my preferred location of San Diego, but no, I really shut down in those one-to-ones. If you take that shutdown approach, like I did, it's typically not going to work well. How do we handle getting sidetracked from our OKRs to meet the short-term demands of the business area? Often find our managers can't support us in those scenarios. Go in with a plan. Prepare for your one-to-ones, meaning I would block out a half an hour to an hour before your one-to-ones, if possible, to set a plan to say, okay, here are the 2 OKRs that I really want to focus in on. Here are the roadblocks that I'm having. Look, if your manager's not supporting you, that's a side issue, but your plan for the one-to-one should be really strong. How's the salary for the Canadian market? My TAM offer is 120K base, 102 equity over 4 years. Can I negotiate that, especially since I'm coming from a senior leadership role at IBM? The equity is definitely negotiable. So if they gave you numbers up front, which is weird considering you're about to go into your RRK2, I don't know why they would share numbers up front. But that equity can probably double. There's a bonus target, maybe there's a sign on, but this stuff is, I just want to remove this from your mind. What I would be spending my time on right now is I'd be making sure I'm thinking about a brick and mortar company, a large brick and mortar company going online, and how I might come up with creative GCP solutions to help them. I just don't want you to worry about comp. I know it's important, but get all focused in on the interview right now, especially if you only have a few hours to prep. On the topic of levels and comp, I wish I had a more healthy outlook on work and not worry so much about promos. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the reality. The only way you're going to 100% be able to control your compensation is if you work for yourself. I'm not here to do that, right? I'm here to support people who are looking to get into corporate jobs. But the only way you're going to have 100% control over your income is when you and you alone control your income. That's a tough data point sometimes to talk about, but that's just the reality. And yeah, like I know I was fixated on comp and promotion in all my corporate jobs. And so it's something that we can tend to get fixated on. Obviously, if you do great work, typically promos and comp come over time, but you got to work with your manager to get there, of course. Does Google and Amazon hire new grads in the spring, or have they not posted job listings yet because of the current job environment? That's constantly in flux, but I've seen a little bit less, again, just from my very limited purview and lens of them putting out new grad roles as early as they did in the past, and I think that is a little bit market dependent. So I think you're right. So yeah, I've just seen a little bit of slowing of that, and there's just been less new grad hires, internships, apprenticeships, since we've seen a little bit of the tech hiring slowdown. Since recent GCUs are front loaded, should one inform their manager that they're expecting a refresher since total comp will start going down, or will this be granted without asking for it? Granted without asking for it. If you have been there the full year, so like for instance, let's say you've worked for all of 2023, you're pretty much guaranteed refreshers. If you've been rejected from HC last year and your recruiter has been laid off, how long your interview date and feedback is valid and visible? Your feedback is always going to be valid and visible, which is great. You went to HC and you didn't make it through, and that's definitely a bummer, right? But here's the good news. All that feedback's going to stick with you. And usually people who get rejected in HC, the likelihood that Google reaches out to you and contacts you again is such a high likelihood. Why? Because you're a known entity. You're somebody who they already know can pass the very difficult interview process, right? And so, even if your recruiter was laid off, other people are going to be able to search your profile and see that data, and they're going to do heavy searching on their internal database because the internal database is so strong. I hope that helps. Okay. I was a Googler back in the day, and it's been 10 years since I left. I'm now interviewing again in another geographic position. Would there be any additional checks when rehiring Zooglers? Yeah. They're gonna go through like they'll actually look at like past performance. They'll look at your past performance ratings, anything else that was documented. So yeah, they'll look at that. But even if 10 years ago, like you had a needs improvement like rating or anything like that, it was so long ago that just the relevancy, it's pretty irrelevant at this point. But they should have access to that data since you're a Zoogler. That's correct. And for anybody who's just wondering, even though it's pretty clear, Zoogler is just a former Googler. It's like an ex-Googler. You're welcome. Thanks for coming live and sharing the insight. Absolutely. Happy to be here. Is it a good sign that I got a call from a recruiter saying that the interview feedback looks good and will now send the documents for approval? I had to submit my resume, final semester result, and such docs. It's fantastic news. Yeah. And I just like clarity in this messaging, right? The clarity is like, hey, good news. Like I just wish recruiters used more common language, or not common language, but more straightforward language when communicating. So that sounds great. Good luck. And yeah, good luck. I heard that RSU should be treated like income and you should sell them as soon as they vest. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Well, let's do the disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't tell you what to do. Do you believe in the long-term viability of technology stocks? That's the biggest question you want to be asking yourself. I still own Google stocks from when I was there. Have I sold some? Sure. Did I diversify some of them? Absolutely, I did. But it's more of your long-term perspective. Remember also capital gains. So if there is a spike and you're trying to sell right away, your capital gains tax is going to be higher the quicker you sell them. So you probably want to look up capital gains tax to understand like when you sell them, what is the percentage, et cetera. Again, not a financial advisor, but um, my typical recommendation is that if you can hold on to them, that's great. If you can hold on to them and then you want to take them in your portfolio and diversify a little bit just so you're not heavily leveraged in technology stock or all in one stock, that's another good play. But it's really going to be up to you. Okay, we're out of questions. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the Google layoffs for a moment. And then again, I'll answer any additional questions. But again, just to reference this, 500 plus recruiters were laid off last week. There were a couple of other small little impacts here and there, but really the layoff was just about saying like, hey, we have too many recruiters for our 1,845 roles open now. We don't need all these recruiters to support these roles, and that just makes sense. I don't know that Google will ever go back and rehire a ton of recruiters. Will they probably rehire some? They probably will. The recruiting position is in trouble, in my opinion. I have posted about this numerous times on LinkedIn, but I think that it is one of the positions that is really ripe to be taken over by AI. And I could list out all those reasons really quickly right now. I don't want to get into that, but recruiters are going to be replaced by AI. And I just hope that any recruiter who's watching now or just in general, that recruiters are ready for the change and to focus in on roles that are communications based, to maybe move a little bit more into sales on one side, a little bit more project program management on the other side. Because I don't think that the recruiter position will exist in 5 years. I really don't. So just my 2 cents. Always a tangent. If you've been on these lives before, I tend to go on tangents. I'm trying for a very long time and my profile never gets shortlisted. I've even created my resume, again, ATS friendly. Is there a specific thing I should keep in mind or find any referral? Find a referral. It doesn't always work, but it's just going to uptick your success rate. It's really that simple. Sometimes we don't necessarily have a referral. Maybe we need to try and build a relationship in a creative way, but getting referred in, if you're just finding that your resume is not getting through the applicant tracking system, try something different. And of course, that networking strategy on LinkedIn. Reach out to people who you think could be hiring managers for the role. We're not always going to know. And the give first strategy. Came across this cool article I wanted to share with you, came across this cool video I wanted to share with you, but don't ask for anything. You will get the role or get into the process that way. It's just a little bit of a slow and steady wins the race. I'm going to roll into my sum up. If any more questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. We had fantastic engagement today. Really, really good audience. The audience is starting to uptick at the end of the year, which tells me there's absolutely more hiring, which is good for the market and makes me really excited. I will be taking off coming up here in the next few weeks, but I'll just let the community know when I'm not going to be going live. So again, thank you so much for being here. My name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview and one-on-one negotiation coaching. I also have a killer interview mastery course. You can check all that out at practiceinterviews.com. Check out our free resources and join our Slack community. We have almost 4,000 Slack members and it's free. And so I'll hop in there once every day or two and answer the questions. I have an AI practice interviews tool coming out. We're going to beta it. It's going to be an MVP. It's going to be really lean, but we'll be capturing email addresses for anybody who wants to try it for free and give us some feedback, which would be greatly appreciated. If you like what I did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. Live, 10 a.m. Pacific time, every single Tuesday. New original content on Mondays. And then I'm going to be doing a short strategy on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that as well. Thanks, Jeff. Fun and informative. Awesome. Thanks for being here, Liz, as always. and you want to test the MVP. Amazing. And we'll create a list for that so that anybody who wants to engage with it, we're hoping to get a pretty good list of people who want to try it out and play around with it. It's going to be super, super lean coming in, but we're going to be adding new features once every couple of weeks. And I have a dev team. Obviously, I can't do this myself. I'm not technical enough. So we'll be releasing new features every couple of weeks to get to that V1, which again, I'm hoping for late this year, early next year. Thanks so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Have a great day, and I'll be back next week, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks.